Welcome to Her Standards. This is the show for women and by women. It is a place where we get to discuss issues that affect women objectively. On today's episode, we are talking about surviving loss of a child. My name is Queen Tambori, and as usual, I'm always delighted to be your host. Before we get to know our guests for today, if you want to join this discussion, we are available on social media at KTN News across all platforms, or you can talk to me directly at Queen Tambori on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Queenie Saina on Twitter. I'm also available as Queen Tambori on LinkedIn. Just hit me that connection and I will find a way of getting back to you. Now, ladies, how are you feeling?
Glad to be here.
All right, we are. It's a season for celebrating mothers.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm a mother.
Oh, wow.
I can see you're a
Yes,
prospective mom. Congratulations.
Already a mom.
You're already a mom.
Yes, second
Congratulations. Oh, second time.
Yes.
Okay, that makes the two of us. Although I have a bonus, I am also a stepmom. So
fantastic.
2+ bonus. So that makes me very excited on this season. Again, our guest here is also a mom. Still a mom. And what I want you to do now is just to tell us who you are. You want to know what you do, where we can find you, and what you feel about this season of celebrating and honoring our mothers. Let me start with her. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're going to start with the lady in the center.
So I think I'll just introduce myself. My name is Rosa Sanau. I am a marriage and family therapist. I also specialize in the area of loss and grief counseling and also child counseling. Yes, and I'm very happy to be here.
What do you think about this season of celebrating and honoring mothers around the world?
I think it's a brilliant idea because motherhood is a job that never ends. It's a 24-hour job and you're everything in one. So it's a day to just sit down and reflect on the roles that mothers play in the society, and even more especially people who are not biological mothers, you know, the more neglected ones like bonus moms and mothers who've adopted children, surrogate mothers. All of these are mothers and they play a mothering role across the board. And even just now for moms also to appreciate themselves. So it's Mother's Day. So what if my partner did not send me a card? What if I don't have a partner? Does it mean that I'm less of a mother? No, I am not. So it's to look at even the broad spectrum and say, can I just appreciate myself? Can I take this time to say, I am enough? Mothers are enough, regardless of whether you are single parenting, whether you have a partner, whether you're parenting bonus children, adoption, surrogacy, all of it is just you're a mom, you're enough, and you matter.
You heard that? You're a mom, you're enough, and you matter. The same way the lady in red is a mom. I think she's in red today because we are just about to celebrate Mother's Day. Please tell us who you are.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the show. My name is Ashley Muteti. I am the founder and executive director at Zuin Zilani Foundation that creates awareness on preeclampsia, which is the second leading cause of maternal deaths. And we also create a support group for mothers who've gone through loss. So I'm very happy to be here today.
What plans do you have for Mother's Day? Are you treating yourself? Are you taking yourself for some spa treat or lunch or something?
For this particular Mother's Day, we actually are partnering with Empower Mama, who's also gone through loss, to bring a Zoom session called Candlelight Letters for our young babies that we lost, infant loss, any mom who's gone through the loss of a child, basically writing them letters, spending time to talk to other moms who've experienced loss, because we are still moms. Even if you lost a child, even if you had a miscarriage and you lost a child, you are still a mother. Yeah, so we have created that space on Mother's Day to really celebrate the women who've also gone through loss.
That's really amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing because for most people, after the loss of a child, that chapter is almost as if it's gone, it's closed.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing to keep that memory alive is really, really, really amazing. It's a good job you're doing there. Now, Now we'll just get straight into the discussion of the day. And today we just wanted to talk about the loss of a child, which is somehow a very difficult discussion, I think, in my opinion, because surviving loss is not something that you learn or you're taught, and you don't anticipate it, especially for new moms. By the time we're expecting a child, all we're expecting is,
Bliss.
yes, bliss. We call them bundles of joy,
Yes.
But then sometimes that bundle of joy or that season of joy is short-lived after going through a loss. And I know you went through a loss. So maybe you could just give us briefly what happened. What happened in your case? How did that make you feel?
So I got married in 2016. And when you get married, you want to spend time alone as a couple to just explore yourself, explore the
marital
whole
bliss.
marital
Honeymoon.
honeymoon period before introducing another life to your own space.
Yeah.
So we got married, and we actually said we are going to stay for 2 years and not get a baby. So we just travel and enjoy each other's company. Yeah. So 7 months into me being a newlywed, I actually 6 months I got pregnant.
That is your 2-year plan was
crashed. It was short-lived. Yeah. So we found out that I'm pregnant, and we said, okay, we are now embarking on a journey of being parents. And for us, it was such a beautiful session to nurture another human being to this world. And my pregnancy was okay until the 7th month of pregnancy, when I started feeling unwell and I didn't know what was happening, but I also attributed it to the fact that I'm pregnant, my hormones are changing. So I didn't quite pay attention to all these feelings until one time I felt really, really bad, and I just told my partner, let's go to the hospital and get checked. So the first thing that they do when they see you're pregnant is to check your BP. So they checked my blood pressure, and it was crazily high. And the doctor, the resident doctor at that hospital, because we went to a hospital that is just near where I stay, he said, we have to deliver the baby, and I'm 26 weeks pregnant. So I'm like, you cannot deliver the baby right now. Why would you want to deliver a baby this soon? I'm not feeling entirely sick to the point of getting admitted. So why would you tell me you want to deliver the baby right now? So we just said, let's go and seek a second opinion. So we went to a different hospital, and when we arrived, I was admitted, and my pressure had got way up, and I got admitted. So the next morning they cleared me because the BP had gone down, but I felt sick again, and I went in to hospital. So after going into hospital, now I started a 1-month stay in hospital, being pregnant. And for me, that period, I was shocked because none of my family members has ever been admitted because they are pregnant. So for me, it was very confusing that you can actually get admitted for being pregnant, because all you see is bliss when you think pregnancy is the most natural thing that comes along. But for me, it was quite different. So my 1-month stay in hospital was very rough. I was now going through a condition called preeclampsia, which is hypertension in pregnancy. I started swelling, my face, my hands, my feet. I was having uncontrollable headaches, pain in my tummy, my chest. My BP was very, very high. At times it would go up to 170, 200. Normal BP is like 120, 80. But mine was shooting really, really high. My body was so swollen, I couldn't get even a line through to get medication to my body. There's a week I gained 6 kgs, and it was a pretty rough period, 1 month stay in hospital. And at the point where the doctor said they can now not control this high blood pressure is when now my organs started failing. So they said, now your organs are failing, we have to remove the baby, we have to save you and the life of the baby. It's not a guarantee, but if we get both of you safe, that's well and good. So I delivered Zuri at 1.2 kgs in March 8th, International Women's Day.
Wow.
And I was so happy to hear her cry.
Was she healthy?
She was okay. Yeah, she was very small. 1.2 kgs is quite small. But she was okay because she cried. And for me, if she cried, she's okay.
Yeah.
So it was such a beautiful experience to hear her cry. And immediately after I gave birth, she went to the NICU. NICU is the neonatal intensive care unit. So a lot of neonates who are sick, came prematurely, they usually go there. So she stayed there for quite some time. She developed a condition called neck that affected her gut, her intestines, and this is a condition that mostly comes because of prematurity and the organs haven't fully developed. Yeah. So she had that particular condition. So in hospital, she was constantly on oxygen, in an incubator, being treated. Rarely did she take my milk. I think she took my milk for like 16 days alone, and then she was just vomiting the whole time. Yeah. So she was quite unwell, and I remember there's this day at night, and I was just looking at her. She was the whole day. Her breathing was very bad. So I was asking the doctors what's going on. She's like, she has a bacterial infection. She had a bleed in the brain. We constantly had to do a lot of blood transfusions and plasma and all that. And she was a bit sick, yeah. So that night, I could see her saturation going down, her oxygen dropping, and it dropped to 0, and the baby turned black. Like, she was very light, so she turned completely black, and the nurses had to rush in and try and resuscitate her. And I think for me that was one of the worst things I've ever seen, because I'm like, I am actually seeing my baby pass on in front of my eyes, you know. So that night, when my husband came from work, I was so stressed. The only thing I thought of is to go to church and plead to God to save the life of my child, because I felt like, okay, this baby is not going to survive, and what can we do, you know. So I just told him, it was 11 at night, and I told him, let's just go to church. And we went to church, and I cried, and I told God, if you really love me, for sure, this is such an innocent baby. She's not done anything. She doesn't even deserve to go through all this pain. Why would you allow this to happen, you know? So the next day, I didn't even sleep well. So the next day, I went to the hospital very early in the morning. I met her doctor who was just from seeing her, and I was asking her, what's happening? Is the baby okay? And she didn't want to talk to me. So I assumed, okay, probably she's not okay. So she's like, I'm coming to talk to you. Let me see another patient. I'm coming back. So I went into my baby's room, and I found her intubated. So intubation means she had all those machines down her lungs to help her breathe. So I looked at her. I called her. She kind of smiled. But then she started like crying, but she couldn't.
Was she able to recognize your voice?
Yes.
Or your presence?
Yes. And at times I used to kangaroo her, and when I say something, she would move her feet. You could just
You
tell.
were communicating?
Probably, yes. I was communicating. I was singing songs to her. I was playing songs for her and everything.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I
Yes, so you saw her?
I saw her, and she cried and smiled. And then she started desaturating again. And the nurses told me to go to the next room so that they can try and resuscitate her. And when I was in the next room, I could hear the commotion and they're shouting, the activities
yeah.
that they are going that are going on. And then I just had the last beep, the machine beep, and I just knew that's it. But I really didn't want to think that's my baby, you know, until the doctor came in and she was like, "We've done our best." I was like, "Is this a movie? Am I on ER? The way you come and announce some things to a parent, you know?" And I walked into the room and I found her wrapped in white, and I was like, "I'm just been with you right here, like 5 minutes ago. You were breathing. I was holding you. I held your hand. Like, what's happening, you know?" So she was covered in white. I took her and I put her on my chest. I once saw a video on Facebook. I don't know if it's fiction.
I've seen that
or
video.
what. If that lady kangarooed the baby and the baby came to life. And for me, I felt maybe my baby is going to feel the warmth and my heartbeat and probably come to life. But she didn't. And I held my baby for 5 hours until she started turning purple on her skin. And my husband came. It was very hard. And the hardest part was when the guys from the morgue came, and they came with a cool box, kind of a red cool box with a white lid. I'll never forget. And that's where they put the baby. And I was like, how can you put my baby inside there? You know, where is she going? I wanted to go to the morgue, as in who is going to protect her and everything. So it was so hard to come to terms with the fact that, okay, this baby is gone. Now what next? I'm so used to coming to hospital. You've just had a cesarean section. You've had a very traumatic birth. You're constantly in hospital every single day. So I didn't know what to do or how do you go on, you know? At times when you lose a baby, you just feel if you can also die, you know? Because nothing else makes sense at that particular time. How can God take away such a small baby? She has not wronged someone. You know, you would think there's someone who has killed, who probably deserves to die.
And not an innocent
but
child.
not an innocent child who has done nothing, probably knows nothing. So the process was very, very difficult for the two of us. For my husband, it was very hard. And for him,
How did he receive the news?
I was holding my baby before my husband came. And there's usually a glass door to the NICU room. And he opened the glass door and he fell down and he cried, he completely lost it. Yeah. And then he came and held the baby when I was holding him. Now he took the baby and he was just crying, he was falling down, you know. He couldn't contain himself.
How would you describe that loss?
Loss is something that you can't even wish it on your worst enemy. It's the worst thing that can ever happen to a human being. There is no even English word to describe a parent who has gone through loss. There's none.
Yes.
They don't know how to refer to a parent who has lost a child, you know. And I think it's important for people to also be considerate of parents who've gone through loss, because at times you get people who tell you some things and you'd feel really, really hurt.
You feel hurt by those comments.
They're quite insensitive, you know, and it's during a time when you're
going through something. I want to come back to that shortly. I mean, as anybody who's watching this is probably wondering, for somebody who has gone through the kind of loss that Ashley has gone through, what happens next? How do they even move on past that the hollow, the pain, the vacuum. And to help us here today, because we have so much to talk about, to help us today is a counseling psychologist. And actually raised a very valid question, because she said, sometimes you don't even know what to do. But now the counseling psychologist has some answers for people who are going through that. What do you do at that particular moment when you have just received news that you have lost a child? What happens to you? How do you deal with the whirlwind of emotions?
Thank you for the question, and I must empathize with Ashley, and I could hear and connect with the deep emotion that was coming out even as you were sharing, and just hearing the sense of loss and the sense of love. And with grief, we say you grieve deeply because you've lost deeply, and you lose deeply because you loved deeply. And so that essence of love and that essence of connection is what really hurts. And so when we talk about grief, I think the first thing, and even for anyone who's watching the show, is to know that whatever you feel is valid, and it's very normal, and it's okay. Because with grief, we cannot even say there is a manual. Like with parenting, we can even say there are parenting classes, but we cannot say there is a loss and grief class that you even though you may go through therapy and all of that, grief is very individual. So in that moment when loss has happened, especially for a child, it's very heavy, because when we look at the normal, let me call quote unquote normal progression of life, no parent ever dreams of burying their child. If you're to walk through the normal progression of age, it's the parent who will transition before the children. And when you're bearing children, you're not only bearing a physical being, you're bringing hopes and dreams to this world, because even culturally, we are transitioning values. We are passing on our dreams to the next generation and saying, this is what we hold as a family, this is what you're taking on to the next generation. So when a child passes on, it's as though part of our dreams and our hopes and our ambitions die. Because if you were to ask any parent as they are conceiving, as they are going through pregnancy, they probably even already envision their child being a mother. You're thinking, oh, she'll wear a gown, he'll bring me a daughter. And sometimes one will say, it's okay, I have a son, at least he'll bring me a daughter. So when grief happens, why I'm explaining that is to see the heaviness when it comes to child loss, because sometimes you may hear people just say, it's just a child. But you see, it's not just a child, it's a life that was being lived through the parents' eyes. Sometimes when it's, for example, a stillbirth, when probably the rest of the family or the community had not, quote unquote, met the child, it may feel like, is it a loss really? So it's even just to help parents understand that as long as there was a heartbeat, that is a loss. And it's life, and it deserves to be appreciated and remembered and grieved. So in that moment when there is that news, there is a lot that happens. It's not even easy, even in psychology, to categorize what really happens. But in a glimpse, we say that one of the things, denial and shock, is very common. The numbness. Like Ashley was saying, is it really happening? No, it's not my baby. I think you have it wrong. I just held my baby 5 minutes ago. How dare you put my baby in a cooler box? It just comes with all of that. And some may lose bodily function, like she was talking about her husband. That was very normal, because we say grief is an abnormal occurrence. Your feeling and reaction is the normal occurrence. So grief is the normal response to an abnormal event, which is death. There is nothing normal about death. And so when it happens, all our body can do is just react in the way it will. Wants, That's why some will collapse. That's why some will have headaches, some will diarrhea, some will vomit, some will just be numb. Others will also look like, that was not my news, thank you. I proceed on to what I was doing. And you may feel like they have accepted or they are okay, but they are in that moment of denial. And what happens psychologically is your brain denies for the short period to avoid crashing down. Because your body,
it's a defense mechanism of the body.
It's actually a brain function. Your brain cannot handle some overwhelming news at the same time. So it has to shut down part of its function, and that's why denial kicks in to help you now begin to process bit by bit. And that's why there is now the funeral, and as everything happens now, it begins to dawn in. So it's a healthy process. When we talk about denial, it's healthy in the first instance, but now we say it's unhealthy if it prolongs and it denies you the reality of the loss and grief. Yes.
What are some of those things that people told you that made you feel so brought back the pain and made it feel so fresh? And how better would you have wanted it to be treated?
Some of the things are quite. I remember there's a lady who told me, that baby of yours was small, afadhali huyo alikuwa mdogo.
Oh my God, no, she didn't say that.
And I was like, I think I don't even want to talk to you right now or anymore. There's a friend of mine, we went to school together in primary, and she told me, oh, I'm so sorry about your loss and what you went through. For me, I am blessed with 2 children. And I'm like, okay.
What was,
and
what was the link between her story and what you were going through?
She was consoling me.
Oh, she was trying to make you feel better.
She was consoling me. But then, at the end of the day, you're telling me you are blessed. So meaning I am cursed. Something like, it is well. It is not. Losing a child, it is not well. It cannot be well. Yeah, it can be well if the baby is here. Something like, you will get another baby, you're still young, and people don't realize that the same way you're in your family and probably have 4 siblings, every single individual is different. Every single person is unique. This pregnancy was unique in its own way. Like we were having a discussion before this, and you've developed a relationship with this particular baby when the baby was still inside your body. She was actively kicking. I could feel her. I could connect with her. We kangarooed, So telling me I'll get another baby as if I'm replacing this, you can never replace life. You can never replace life. Yeah. I remember one of my aunties telling me, Ashley, and she's also went through loss. And she was like, Ashley, during this time, you're supposed to guard your heart. Guard every single thing that goes through here, because people will say some things that are going to be nasty and you will not like it, but just guard your heart. And I think that really helped me. Because if you came in and said something, I block immediately, and I choose what, I'll be so intentional with my feelings, and choose what I'm supposed to feel, So I think that guarding your heart was really essential in taking me through this particular process.
Well, on that note, we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we will still carry on with this conversation. We've just heard from the story of loss from one of my guests, Ashley, who lost her 2-month-old baby. That experience has really took a toll on her and her family. If you have any feedback, comments, you want to drop a line for her, any word of encouragement, we are available across all social media platforms at KTN Home, or you can talk to me directly at Queenie Mbori on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Queenie Saina on Twitter. See you in a short while. We'll be right back.